It really is. And so, you know, from a head coaching standpoint, it can be a little bit painful because I'm not necessarily interested in one side of the ball. I'm into execution, clean-looking execution, and if one side is looking pretty good, the other side is not going to be looking pretty good. And so you just go back and you just analyze the play, you know, people, you know, those type of things. And then, you know, down the road, there's always going to be some new schemes that both sides are kind of experimenting with, seeing if they're going to like. We kind of like this to carry over. And I think that's one of the things that we really like about spring ball. Everybody's going to get reps. You know, everybody's going to see if he can build skill. It doesn't matter if you're thinking, you know, this guy, I don't think he's going to do much this next fall. We don't change our stance. He needs to get reps, and he needs to get reps in the fall so we can see if this guy can come on. Because we've been through this too many times where you're thinking, I'm not sure about this guy. And sure enough, he starts to catch fire and starts to figure some things out.
How do you go about distributing the QB reps and splitting that up? Is there a strategy to that?
Yeah, I have no idea. We'd have to ask Bush Andrew. All the coaches handle that. And it's hard at that position. I mean, if you have 3 quarterbacks, it can be hard at that. That is the one position that we can never truly get enough reps for. You know, with one guy getting the reps, and sometimes they're handoffs and those type of things. And so, you know, we make a big deal with our whole team in terms of how we practice the mental part of getting reps out there. That's a whole nother conversation that we spend every day in spring ball and through fall camp of teaching how to do this, because you just can't get them enough reps.
What stood out about Jacob's contributions last year during that time?
Who?
Jacob Eason. What stood out about kind of the contributions he had last year? When he couldn't play, but was still active.
Yeah, I mean, he did a nice job with the scout team. You know, all 3 of those guys did. They did a really good job. But, you know, the scout team, especially for a quarterback, what are we talking about? I mean, I can be the scout team quarterback, right? I mean, it's on a card, it's not processing anything, it's just looking pretty throwing the ball. And so all those guys did that really well. It's a whole different thing when it's like, you know, there's no card in front of you and you're really processing and checking plays and changing protections and all those type of things. That's a whole different thing. And so, you know, all those guys were certainly around it, but they didn't do a whole lot of that with, you know, Jake Browning and Jake Hayner taking all those real reps.
What's it like having Chico back?
It's awesome just having Chico out there. I mean, I just like being around Chico first and foremost, you know, and it's, you know, it's just really good to put a smile on my face, you know, it has for a while. He's kind of bouncing around, and, you know, I really hope enjoying this game for how we're supposed to enjoy it, you know, and I think that's the one thing that so many of these guys that people lose sight of. They lose sight of, us as coaches can lose sight of, and certainly people on the outside, how much these kids really care about what they're doing. And really, we have an issue of them putting too much pressure on themselves, all of our guys. They care too much. You know, we got to keep this thing in perspective. Sports and football was meant to be enjoyed. And it's interesting that, you know, certain days we all lose perspective of that. I do. I mean, that's one of our coaching objectives, always, is to enjoy this process. And it's our job to really continue to transcend that down to our players. It's like, we're good. You know, this is a game. We're not curing cancer here.
Jake got to a point where he was doing so much.
Who are we talking about?
Sorry. You know, Jake. Jake Browning got to a point where he was doing so much pre-snap and he had so much autonomy to check into what you need and everything. How much of a factor will that be as you evaluate this current group of quarterbacks going forward, their ability to maybe?
They will all be able to do that because the system that we have is not overly complex. It's actually pretty, you know, it's pretty straightforward. But there's still, when we're throwing the whole system at them, you know, there becomes a lot on their plate. And, you know, we didn't ask, you know, Jake to do, you know, he did a lot, but because he'd been around a lot. But the stuff that we'll have these guys, we'll start small and kind of build from them, but it won't dramatically change, you know, our check system, because we don't check a ton. And when we do, it's not overly complicated how we do it.
Do you allow yourself to, I mean, because with no Jake Browning, no Miles Gaskin, was there any double takes? Was there any kind of wow, okay, or is it just literally business as usual moving forward?
I really kind of felt it was like business as usual, kind of next guys up, you know. We've been through it for the last three months or so with those guys not being around here, you know, in the weight room and the team meetings. And certainly the first couple team meetings you kind of come into, that feels weird with all those guys not being there. The Samples, and, you know, Jalen Johnsons and JoJo Mack, all those guys, like they've been around for a long time. And so, you know, today was kind of business as usual. I mean, it almost kind of felt the same out there. And, you know, that's the blessing and the curse of college football, you know. You lose guys you're so close to and you love them around, but also the blessing is it's new guys get opportunities, new life. It's exciting, it's challenging, it's all those things.
Junior Adams is a new guy. I mean, you've been around him a long time, really familiar with him. Is he just a plug-and-play guy that just knows you backwards and forwards, or does he bring something different?
Yeah, he doesn't know us backwards and forwards because he's never, you know, I've known him for a long time, but he's never coached with me, with us. And so he's very familiar with a lot of things that we've done over at Boise because a lot of that stuff stayed there. But still, it's different. And but he is further along than somebody from completely, you know, that hasn't ever coached with us before. I mean, there's a lot of carryover, but it does take some time. But he's an experienced wide receiver coach. He knows what he's doing, and it's really awesome to have him here.
Anything unique he brings to the table?
Yeah, I think every coach does. You know, part of just their personality. That's probably one of the things that I've probably been most pleased with. I really like just being around him. I think he's a really, really good guy. And I think the kids like him a lot. And so that coupled with being a really good wide receiver coach, you know, I've been really encouraged and excited because we can teach him the rest of how, you know, we do stuff.
Let's just stay one. Was there anything about Jake Mason that stood out today?
No. I mean, excuse me. I don't think we got to go back in there and watch this stuff. But you know, I didn't really see. You know, I'm so much into the organization of practice and making sure moving on time and the drills look right. And you know, I got a list of, you know, my little trusty notepad here that I carry out there. You know, of 20 things we just got to clean up as groups, as that type of stuff. You know, well, the rest will kind of play out as we go.
Are you looking maybe for people who are jumping out at you on day one, or is it really something where you want to give it a day or two or three to really see somebody do it sustain success?
And we're all about sustained consistency. And we will have spring MVPs for sure. I don't know if it's going to be one guy or 10 guys, but exactly what you said is what we're looking for. It's like, wow, that guy like every day was really impressive. And sometimes it's hard to see that from out there, what's going on. Somebody breaks down, and you know, a guy can't have a chance to make a play. And that's why it's so much fun to go back in there and put the tape on and really analyze what's going on. But that is what we're looking for, is guys that really jump out, starting day one and do it through the next 14 practices.
Do you expect Aaron Fuller to practice much this spring?
I don't know how much he will. I think so. It's nothing serious at all. We actually were going to try to get him through spring ball and then maybe, you know, take care of his issue afterwards. But then at the last second we readjusted, and so he had a little procedure done that is not major, and we should be smart with him.
We didn't see DJ Beavers. Is he still rehabbing?
DJ, yeah, we're still kind of figuring out DJ's situation, and he will not, you know, play spring ball.
I was just curious, when you lose an entire secondary and you have one guy coming back in Miles,
Yeah.
is there something, I mean, that's a very unique situation. Do you look for leadership or something right off the bat with day one with him?
That's a pet peeve question of mine on leadership and good players. We'd like our best players to be our leaders, but a lot of times they're mutually exclusive. Sometimes guys that aren't our marquee guys are our best leaders in that locker room, in that weight room, and off the field. And so when I always get that question, it's like, hey, that guy's out there really doing a great job being a leader. I'm always like, what do you know? Are you in our locker room? Are you seeing what's going on behind the scenes? Are you doing all those type of things? So we do select players that we think have these really strong leadership capabilities, and it really helps when they are players that have a lot of experience and have done some things. But that leadership thing is developed, it's learned, it's a process. So we're really talking about two completely different things there. I really want a guy like Miles to be a leader because of his play on the field. That's going to speak really loud because he kind of backs up how we do things. Where are we going? Oh, that's a 30-second warning.
Coach, Maury and Richard Newton look like they've each put on about 10 pounds. Is that by design, or is that just them maturing? Also, Devin Culp put on.
Yeah, and so it's always about speed and agility, in our opinion. And so they can put on as much weight as they possibly can. But if it slows them down at whatever position, tight end, running back, then it's too much weight. And so that's Coach Sawhaw's department with the position coach. But as long as those guys aren't losing any movement skills, that's fine. We want them to be able to carry the weight that they can naturally carry. Everybody's, trying to get bigger and all those things. But I think that's one of the most overrated things, in my opinion. Got to get bigger. That's one of the things we see with some of the young guys. They'll come in the summertime and all year long they're working to get bigger because I'm going to play college football, and they walk in and we're like, uh-oh, this is going to be a problem. Coach Saw's going to take that weight right off them because they got too big and they can't move. We want guys that can move. So we want big, strong, fat. But if it slows them down, we don't want that. So we'll see how they do out here in spring. It's too much weight.
How Maury and Richard look to you?
I mean, that's a hard question to answer. Like always, the running back thing, because we don't tackle those guys, and certainly no pads today. It's hard for them to really show much. I thought they were moving fine from, without analyzing the tape. So it does look like, they can carry that weight. But we'll see. We'll see.
We saw Jared Hilbert's on the right side. Obviously, he's played on the left side.
Yep.
How much confidence do you have on him, regardless of kind of where you plug him in?
Yeah, I think he can play, and he has played either side. And we're just, some of these guys that have experience, we'll cross-train those guys different positions to get our best 5 guys out there. Figure out who our best 8 to 9 guys are when it's all said and done. We just don't like that thing where if our number 6 player is the right, plays. If he's the 6th, we need to get him in there, not because if, one guy goes down and now we're going to play 7 or 8 because he just played, you know what I'm saying? We're trying to always get our best guys on the field. So some of these guys that have experience, we can cross-train with different positions.
Chris, to follow up on your leadership comment, can you identify a couple of guys that your staff has looked at as leaders for this spring?
Well, it's we usually stick with the guys that have been around here for a while, that at least can lead by example. And so, you're going to have your guys like Nick Harris, Trey Adams, and Keith Taylor's been around here and done some good things. And, I think else, Levi Ozarike's been around here. And when I talk about that, I mean, Levi's an unbelievable student.